is in his presence, but not meeting with him for the purpose of going over any program or what have you, because his staff and our staff, we had worked very closely together.
Who did you work with mainly? Just
as far as his staff is concerned, Andy Young, Jesse Jackson, James Bevel, Hosea Williams, and the people who normally travel with him and who normally is.
Were you in the march that was broken up?
Yes.
March that day? Did you go back to the temple?
Yeah. Yeah, we...
were you maced or anything?
No, I wasn't maced on that march. I was swung at a couple of times, but I don't know, maybe I'm faster than some of the rest of them. We got about to Main and Beale, although the chaos started before then. It was about that point where we just decided that the march wasn't going to come off right, although some portions of it had turned on Main Street and were down maybe a half, 2/3 of a block.
Now, were you here all during this spread? Did you go home at all, or just?
I think I went home once.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't you just move your family over?
Yeah, I thought about that.
And even now you're here and oh me.
Had you ever been swung at before or anything like that? Have you ever been involved in any?
No. We've had confrontation with police before, but not like Memphis police. It was a very strange kind of experience, and I've been in large crowd situations before, but we knew, because we had to a large degree sort of discipline our people as to what the march was all about, what we expected to take place, how we expected them to conduct themselves. And the strange thing about it is that the police, and maybe I'm shoving some blame, but the police did not attempt to take on the people who were causing the problem. They took on, where they could find people, and it was quite obvious that there were women and children scattered throughout that crowd. In addition, we had the sanitation people along the outside edges of the crowd. And we didn't anticipate, the kids along the sidewalk busting windows or anything either, but I think there was a sort of tension existing because of maybe what had happened earlier that morning. And maybe they had just common criminals out on the street too, who were looking for an opportunity to grab off a little bit of loot. But I think had the police handled it differently, and I'm not sure how they could have handled it, you wouldn't have had the mass chaos and the ensuing things that took place that did happen. And I think Holloman completely lost control of the police force that day. They were doing things that were just unbelievable. And we got a ton of photographs of things that were done that just goes beyond your imagination as to how a police force would conduct itself. And I think anyone who watched the newscast that afternoon, particularly the national news, saw a number of incidents that just doesn't come close to anything that they've ever seen before as far as the handling of a crowd or a crisis situation. But we knew from experience that what would happen. They fired tear gas into the church, they fired tear gas into the buildings.
Did you see them fire tear gas?
Oh, yes.
You saw them fire? Yeah. Not into the lobby, but actually into the sanctuary
church.
of the church.
Yeah. We got photographs. As a matter of fact, I was sitting in the third floor window once, when we came back to the church. And so I guess about 3 or 4 policemen come up to the door, open the doors. One guy used to fire into the church, and then another guy goes in behind him. They were clubbing people in the church, all over the place. And then we're leaving for posterity, I guess, a history, the spot where, they fired into the minimum salary building. I don't know if you've ever been there or not.
Yes.
Have you seen that particular spot?
Yeah, it's found on the wall, yeah. Well, now, in view of the fact that the police were obviously not quite attuned to this march idea, and the marchers could get out of control, did you want Dr. King to come back in a second time? Or would you have preferred he had not come?
No, we felt that he should come, because we didn't feel that the sanitation employees or their supporters had been involved in the looting and whatsoever, so we felt no responsibility or obligation to the police department to call off the march.
Okay. Whose responsibility would it have been to control the kids?
Those not directly involved in the march is the police's responsibility to control. Those in the march is our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you watch the marches since then, we have had no difficulties whatsoever.
The police were nowhere near the march,
You mean,
the first march.
They were at intersections.
they were at intersections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't spread along.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that they had, tons of them.
Well, I mean, nowhere
parked on
near,
Front
I don't mean that. I mean, they weren't within the march. They were by their own selection.
Did you go over to Atlanta with Jesse Epps to talk to King about?
No, I didn't go to the executive staff meeting as far as the second
Mhm.
march was concerned because King, though he wasn't reluctant to come back, he knew the problems that was going to create in terms of the schedule for the Poor People's Campaign.
Yeah.
And he felt that in addition to himself laying these out to his executive staff, it would be much more important that someone from the union as well as someone from the community went over and pointed out the parallel nature of both programs.